welcome back to As Tom Tells It. This episode is going to be exciting for you and for me because, first of all, I got one of my mentors here. Wally Hauck, he's got a PhD, but to me, it means powerful, helpful, and distinguished. Tonight, leadership, stress in the workplace, how you handle it all, and tonight we're talking to the man that can do it for you. I want to thank you for showing up.
Tom, thanks so much. Great to be here.
Okay.
Appreciate it.
Leadership, stress, all of that together.
Right. Yeah, that's what I do. I help leaders to deal with people in a different way that reduces the opportunity to mess things up and create chaos, which is often what people experience. In fact, if you ask anybody, have you ever had chaos in the workplace, at your work? Yes, I have. Could you have avoided it? Yes, boy, would that be great. That's part of what I do. So.
Is it both sides? Is it the worker and the management?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, but it's mostly, I have to say that I'm biased on this. The saying that I use is there is no bad dogs. It's always the trainer of the owner of the dog. So it's always the manager that has to make a decision to do something different. And that's the key. And one of the stories, I did some research this week, and I'm hesitating to tell this story because it can be a little bit depressing, but I think it's so interesting. It's about the Titanic. If I said the name Frederick Fleet, would you know who Frederick Fleet was?
No.
Hardly anybody does. Frederick Fleet was the crew member in the crow's nest who first spotted the iceberg for the Titanic. Now, he actually survived the entire event. He was one of the survivors, and there were very few survivors, right? There's about 20% of the people survived. He later, so this is the depressing part, I'm sorry to be depressing, he actually committed suicide because he felt so badly, he had so much guilt about, he took on the responsibility. Here's what I think is so interesting, that his boss walked off of the Titanic carrying the key that was to the cabinet, to the binoculars, that if he had those binoculars, he would have seen the iceberg much sooner. And it's likely that the ship would have been able to miss the iceberg completely. So it's leadership that has to start to think about what is it that they're doing or not doing that could help the employees. And very often what they do is they do something that they may be totally unaware of that causes all kinds of chaos where it could have been prevented in the future. So what I do is I help uncover what some of those insights are. And the interesting thing for me is that the techniques can be used at home or with your friends.
Wait a minute. Can I try this with my wife?
Yes, you absolutely could. You absolutely could. In fact, here are some of the things that you could. Well, sure. You know why? Because I'm asking you to take a higher level of responsibility for when there is some kind of chaos or upset or frustration or conflict at home. If you take a higher level of responsibility, then that increases the probability that you're going to prevent it in the future and get it solved sooner. What we've been taught is really more about blame, and blame does nothing to resolve issues. So how do you take that higher level of responsibility? So that's what I help leaders to do. That's what I help people to do. And then what can you do? You can get back to the business of the organization, which is really about serving customers. It's about developing those relationships with customers, making more money, having more profit, having the employees feel better about themselves and do a better job.
You handle all size companies? Individuals?
Sure, all size companies. I deal with mainly organizations with approximately 100 employees and between 100 and 500 employees. Right now I've got one client that's the third largest YMCA group in the country. They've got about 2,000 employees that they hire during the year, so some are part-time. But that's about the
So are we
largest
just not taught
right
the
now.
right ways to communicate with people?
Yeah,
When
that is
we're in
correct.
college or when we're going through training?
That is correct. We are taught to, it's much easier to blame others when things don't go well. And one of the stories I like to tell is, I love Dunkin' Donuts coffee. So for years what I would do is stop on my way to a client, and I'd stop and I'd ask, may I have a large cream, no sugar? And about 10% of the time I get sugar. I go through the drive-through, I pay, I get the coffee, I drive away, I'm on my way to the client, I take a sip, oh my God, I got sugar. Now what do I do? Because now now it's $3. I'm out $3. I don't have my caffeine, I'm really upset, and if I go back, I'm gonna be late to the client. Well, this one place did it to me twice in 1 week, and I got so upset that I turned around and I drove back. And I was going to yell at the clerk, I was going to yell at the manager, because it was easy for me to blame them. What I came to realize is that I was mentioning the word sugar. Why do I mention sugar if I don't want sugar? I was saying no sugar. So very often the clerk would hear, oh, sugar, put sugar in. I started saying just cream, right? Just cream. 5 years I've done that, no sugar. It's a metaphor, okay? It's a true story, but it's a metaphor. If you can help the leaders or anyone in a family, anyone in a group, anyone on a team, to take responsibility, what is it that I am doing or not doing, that if I change that, it would make a difference for the frustration that I have and make the frustration go away. That's what I help people to do. So I stop saying sugar. I teach leaders to stop saying sugar. That's really what I do.
So you go in and they're receptive.
No.
No? No?
No.
No? Oh boy, now you got a block already. You got to
Yeah,
overcome.
because they, well, why do you think that they wouldn't be receptive? How can somebody be receptive? If I said to you, okay, so Tom, there's some things that you're doing you have to change. If I come right up and start to say something like that, right, exactly, puts a block up. So there has to be a process to gain the trust, first of all, collect some data that they provide to me that shows that there's opportunities for them to do things differently. And so it's a mindset shift. And it's fun, it's so much fun to do, because when they make that mindset shift, everything changes, everything gets better, everything gets positive. So it's a shift, it's really a shift to the philosophy of systems thinking. We're not taught systems thinking. That's exactly what you just said earlier. Are we not taught this? We're really not taught systems thinking. Systems thinking means that there are interactions, that the interactions in a team, in a business, in a family, it's the interactions that need to improve between people, not the people themselves. The people will fix themselves once they understand how they can do things differently. But the question is, stop blaming each other and start working as a team, as a partnership. How can we improve our interactions together to get where we both want to go? And so that's the mind shift. And we've not done that. We don't teach our kids that. We don't teach our kids that in school, because the teachers have all the answers, right? Because the kids get the grades. So if you have a bad teacher, the kids are going to get a bad grade, or a higher percentage are going to get a bad grade. So we're really subtly blaming our kids for dysfunctional way of teaching things. And so really every organization needs to start to make this shift to what I'm calling systems thinking.
Is it ego sometimes, or lack of communication?
Yeah, it's both.
Really?
It's both.
Is it worse as you go up? Are the egos stronger?
They can be. Yeah, they can be. Because very often the leaders of an organization have been promoted to that level because they're quick, they take quick action, they're very good at controlling, they're very good at solving problems, and so they get promoted, and they have a tendency to want to control things. So it can be ego, but it's a shift in, it's offering a different mindset that there's something that they can do to make things better, and having that dialogue to uncover what some of those things are. You know, next time, don't take the key with you that goes to the binoculars, right? So that's a system change and a mindset change that really helps people to make the shift.
The biggest word that I have a problem with is, or people have a problem with, is change.
Right.
Man, they don't want to change.
Right.
I don't understand why. Are they comfortable? Are they settled? Do they not want to grow?
Well, you know, that's I really appreciate the way you said that. People don't want to change. And what's interesting is that we change all the time. We make changes all the time on our own. So another way to think about change is that people don't like to be changed. They don't like it when somebody imposes a change, or imposes a change where they don't understand what the benefit is. And whatever that benefit is, whatever that change is, there has to be a higher benefit to the benefit that they get for doing it the way they're currently doing it. So again, that's an interaction. So people don't want to change unless they see what the benefits are that are going to be higher for them than the benefits they're getting for what they're currently doing. And that requires a building of trust and a dialogue to uncover what do you think the benefits are that you're getting over here? Here are the benefits over here. Can you see how that would be better for you? Wow, I do. So now they're going to move
Now,
more quickly.
providing that person's open-minded.
Well, again, it depends. See,
I'm getting personal because there's a thing that we just went through, and but we've always done it that way. I cannot handle that statement.
yeah,
And is it security? Is it you're in a group that's getting the advantage of the other side? And then the emotional side rather than logical.
right.
Man, you can't break that.
Well, okay, so that mindset that you're describing right there is really the mindset that we were talking about earlier. Because when you say there's some people that they just don't want to change, I'll turn that around and I'll say to you, okay, well, how are you explaining the benefits of that change to that new change to them? And how are you uncovering what the benefits are of what they're currently doing now, what they've done for years? How are you uncovering that? See, that's leadership, that's influence versus management, which is really saying, you know,
Yeah.
you have to do this, or controlling where you have to do this. So when you're imposing change on people, if you don't give them an opportunity to process how the benefits are going to be greater than what they're currently doing, and you don't lead them that way, then yes, they're going to resist you. And it's very simple to say, well, that person just doesn't want to change. They're impossible. They just don't want to change. We got to get rid of them because they want. But it's really a leadership issue. It's a leadership issue. Because when you think about it, you have kids, right? I have kids. So we could ask anybody, can you control your kids? No, it's impossible. In fact, there's no one that you really can control. And if you ever try to control them, they will resist you. And what's so great about this country is it's founded on freedom, right? There are not a lot of countries like the United States of America, which is founded on freedom. So some people are used to living in tyranny, if you will, are used to living in under control.
Lifestyle.
And so I think we're a little bit spoiled. We're going to resist things unless we have the freedom to choose those things. And we're not going to choose those things unless we see the benefits of it and or the consequences if we don't do it. There's a little book called The Evolution of Cooperation. A little tiny book. You'd think it would be bigger. The Evolution of Cooperation. And what the guy talks about, he says you need three things to help people to make a change. You need three things for cooperation if you're going to have somebody cooperate with you. You need clear benefits of what you want them to do, and you need consequences if you don't change, and you need frequent communication about both. So you need to repeat. Here are the benefits if you change, and here are the consequences if you don't. Now, he tells a story which I find fascinating. It's the story of World War I. World War I, in fact, there's a movie out right now, 1917, right? I don't know if you've seen it. It's so worthwhile seeing. But it's trench warfare. And so in the World War I, there was trench warfare, the Germans and the French. Now, they spoke different languages, right? They couldn't even communicate with each other. What happened was, because they sent the soldiers to the front line for 45 days. And if you survived after 45 days, you got a break, you went home. You went home for a while. Now, maybe you came back, but maybe you didn't. Maybe you just survived for 45 days. So they both had this set up, and the trenches were, a couple hundred yards apart. So you could actually, if you poked your head up, you could actually see people. You start to recognize people, right? Both sides didn't speak the same language, but both sides knew that if they could survive 45 days, they could go home. So what did they do? They would, when they shot their shells, they would purposely shoot over the heads.
This is the movie.
Well, exactly.
Wow.
And this is the story in the book. They purposely cooperated with each other to make sure that both sides survived. And the reason they did that was because if one side actually did land a shell in the trench, the consequences were the other side would then start to land the shells in the trench, right? And they could see each other for 45 days. So they started to automatically cooperate. Why? Because they knew what the benefits were, they knew what the consequences were, and they saw each other on a frequent basis. So the generals had to come, and they would pretend like they were fighting, because the generals would come down, they'd watch, they'd say, okay, we gotta pretend, make sure that it looks like, but nobody would die. So what I'm saying to you is that if you're going to say, well, those people just can't change, as a leader, you're limiting yourself to the opportunity to ask 3 other questions. What are the benefits that they're interested in? What are the consequences that they're going to get if they don't change? And it's not a threat, it's just, here are the conditions that are happening. If you do change, it's the benefits, here are the conditions if you don't. And I'm going to communicate that frequently to them in a language that they understand, and they will come around. That's leadership. Leadership is not about blame, and that's really what we taught.
Let me throw something else into this little thing that's happening lately. This particular group is losing power because of the switch.
Okay.
That's, man.
Oh, right,
man.
exactly. Oh my gosh. Yes, so they're losing power, they're losing something. They don't want to lose that.
Oh my God,
That's
they
a
don't want to lose
huge benefit to them if they hold on to that power, right? So as a leader, you're going to have to come to them with the benefits that are greater than that power that they currently have. How do you position that? And that's the challenge for leadership. How do you explain it to them in a way that they can appreciate it? And maybe it's because customers will benefit more, which will make it better for the whole company, which will protect their jobs longer term, even though they're giving up some power. Somebody else is going to benefit in a way that they will gain benefits to themselves later. But that's about leader. It's about the communication of the leader. That's what I'm saying. There's no bad dogs. It's all how you position this.
So that's the leadership side. Now, what about the employee engagement?
Okay.
How do you get them to buy into it?
Yeah. And the employee engagement today is so much more important than it ever used to be, because in the industrial age, there was something called Taylor's Scientific Management, which was this gentleman, Frederick Taylor. Frederick Taylor, he was a consultant at the time in the early 1900s. He taught virtually every manufacturing firm, starting with Ford and Chrysler and all the major automobile dealers. And he said, look, there's a certain way to do things. I'm going to show your people how to do those things. And if they do them, they'll get paid. If they don't do them, we'll fire them because there's plenty of other people that could come in. They don't have to think. They don't have to communicate with each other. They just have to do it the way I tell them to do it. And that's the best way to do it. I'll figure it out. Then they have to do it that way. So that philosophy of do what I say you're supposed to do was really the industrial age. We're now in the knowledge age. So in the knowledge age, employee engagement is so much more important because people have knowledge about how to do things and how to solve problems. We're actually using people need to use their brains. So employee engagement is so much more important. In fact, Gallup has done an employee engagement survey in the last 20 years. And this past year, 2019, was the first year that employee engagement actually jumped. And they came up with an article, what are the key factors of employee, why did it jump? Because it's been like 33% of employees engaged, meaning what is employee engagement? Means employees are willing to put in extra effort without being asked or bribed or threatened. They're willing to put in the extra effort. And so 33% engagement. Engagement is a measure of effective leadership. So for 20 years, it's been like at 33%. It just jumped to 35%. Gallup said, how did that happen? And they identified some factors. Number one factor was that the leaders started to realize how important employee engagement was, started talking about it, started focusing on it, started describing the benefits of it, started describing the benefits long-term of it happening, and started to make different decisions. The second thing they did was start to coach leaders on how to listen better to their employees and move them from being a boss telling them what to do and being a coach and facilitator to help get them to buy into things and solve their own problems. And so that's the shift we're still in that shift. And so I find it fascinating.
What about the 4 generations working together, first time in history?
Really a challenge, isn't it?
Wow.
Oh my gosh.
I was 7-year-olds talking to 21-year-olds?
Yeah.
That's a hell of a challenge.
It's really a challenge.
And the millennials,
Yeah.
interesting group.
Yeah, the millennials are interesting, and I'm a boomer. You're a boomer, right? So they have trouble with us. We have trouble with them. So what's the key to that? If you're going to have reduce chaos and reduce frustration in your team, in your workforce, because you have multiple generations, you have to understand, you have to identify what are the common things that would help everyone to align on those things. And there's a way to do that. I call it the foundation of the house of engagement. What's in the foundation? It's the vision. What do we want to look like as a team? What do we want to look like as an organization moving forward? Our mission. Why do we exist? What value do we bring to our customers? What strategy? How are we going to get there? And what are our values? How do we behave with each other as we're going forward? So the key is to create the foundation. For example, I've never built a house. My dad built a house. But when you think about what's the most important thing, it's the foundation. It's where you're going to put the foundation and how solid that foundation is, if it's really going to hold up. So you identify those things clearly in the foundation for your team, and then you start to build the structure on top. And then they start to work together better. Why? Because they have something solid to stand on.
Regardless of age.
Regardless of age. We can all agree on respect. We can all agree on how to treat each other with respect. We can all agree on integrity. We can all agree that we have to keep our commitments and our agreements. We can all agree on who our customers are and how we have to serve our customers. We can agree on those things, even though we disagree on how often we might look at our phone, right, for example, or how we might drive the car and text at the same time. I don't know.
Who's on Survivor?
There you go. Who's on Survivor?
So in general, leadership's going in a good direction.
I think it is. I think that was really good news that Gallup came out with.
Yeah, that sounds good.
Blip showing a higher level of engagement. And we're starting to recognize that that is the critical piece for success and for really adding more value to our customers.
Back to what you said, it can go one-on-one, husband and wife, friends, family. You can use all of this everywhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
Is it a lot more about listening than talking?
It's a lot more about listening, absolutely, yes. It's about listening. You know what else is a key skill that is more important than ever before is empathy. How do you express empathy? How do you acknowledge when someone is upset? And do you acknowledge when someone is upset? Because if you do that, what you do is you diffuse the negative energy when you use empathy. And that's a skill that, in my experience, we all could benefit from if we just became more empathic. And leaders need to be more empathic today than ever before. Because when you think about it, there's always going to be emotion in the workplace. In the industrial age, you could ask employees, so are you allowed to be emotional here? Oh, no, we can't be emotional. We can't ever show up. But that's not human. I mean, you have to be able to have emotion. You have to that creates psychosis, not being able to express your emotions.
I mean, if you walk by, if you're the manager or leader, and you walk by and somebody's having a bad day, one of the things I used to do when I was in a restaurant is I would tackle the problems, the complaints about the people.
Okay.
And I'd calm down, talk to them in a low voice, slower. They loved it. You're listening to them.
There you go.
Acknowledging them.
You're acknowledging, you're being empathic. You're showing that you understand. They want to work with you then. So those are some of the techniques of
that's what you show, that's what you teach, and that's what you share with people.
That's correct. And empathy definitely could be used at home. Much more empathy. I know I work at it all the time. I can get better at it myself. And it's not easy to do. It's not easy to do when somebody is yelling, right?
Yeah.
To be empathic.
You just want to let them.
The tendency might be to yell back, right? But
they can't.
A leader can't do that, right? Leader can't. Well, if a leader does that, they're just putting sugar in the coffee.
Because, like you said before, management and leadership are totally two different things.
Two different things.
Two different. This is about people.
Right.
This is about getting the job done.
Exactly.
But they can mesh and they can come together.
Yeah.
This was an exciting episode.
Oh, good.
Besides the fact that you're one of my mentors, I love talking to you, and this went by. And Bruce, we're going to have to listen to this a couple of times here. But I want to thank you very much for showing up.
It was a pleasure.
Loved it.
God bless you. Thank you so much.
Don't leave. You got 2-minute tips coming up right now. Tom's 2-minute tips or less. Body language tip tonight. 7 conversation starters, the bad ones and the good ones. Number 1, how's work? Or, working on any exciting projects lately? Number 2, how are you? How about, what was the highlight of your day? Number 3, what do you do? How about, what's your personal passion? Number 4, how's the family? How about going on vacation with your family this year? Number 5, where are you from? Tell me your story. Number 6, how's it going? What are you doing this weekend for fun? Number 7, been busy? I don't even know what that one means. What do you do to unwind? You see, these all invite your clients to talk to you more rather than a yes or no answer. So if you use these conversations, watch what happens and watch the difference go up. See you at the next tip.